welcome everybody and call the September working meeting of the Lincoln County Board of Education to order. Need to set the meeting agenda. Item 3B is to be removed from the agenda. More information is needed before it is presented to the board, so we're going to put that off a little bit. There are some addendum items that were added, and of course also we have action items under 4. Do I have a motion or first off, do I have any discussion about the agenda? Do I have a motion to accept the agenda?
I'll make the motion to accept the
Motion
agenda.
made, second.
Second.
Etta, second. Vote. Ricky?
Yes.
Gloria?
Yes.
Etta?
Yes.
Bruce? Yes. And I vote yes also. Discussion items, dual credit certification program. Ms. Cooper.
So after I have dug a little more, it looks like back in 1920, this was brought before the board and there was supposed to be further investigation into it. I think Mr. French was actually the person who was supposed to get this together. And then I think COVID hit and then I think it just went away. And a teacher had asked, requested again to bring this back up. So back in 1920, we didn't have the option of using UK for dual credit classes. So teachers, in order to be able to provide that service for our students, dual credit classes had to take 18 hours in master's program in their content area. And I think, to my knowledge, Mr. Godby, we have 2 in district that have had to go back and get more hours so that they could provide dual credit classes for our students before we had the UK option. And so that is what they are requesting, were the 2, I guess, just the 2 teachers that had taken the additional classes so they could teach dual credit to our students to reimburse them for their tuition for those classes. So that would be 6 classes.
Okay. And once again, it would be contingent on them.
They're already doing it.
They've
already done it.
There.
Yeah, they had to go back to school and get those hours to provide dual credit classes for our students. Because now through UK, they don't have to do that. There's a teacher online at UK and there's a teacher in the room. And so they don't have to go back and get those additional hours. But before UK came about, we did have to go back and get those additional hours if they didn't have them.
I'm a little confused.
So we have an MOA with UK,
Right.
Campbellsville, Moorhead. So UK is the only college that allows our teachers to teach dual credit classes without having the additional 18 hours in their content area. And the reason they can do that is because they have a professor online during that class time, along with our teacher in the class, and they're both providing the instruction. Before, we just got that contract with UK this year. Before UK came about, we used Campbellsville, we used EKU, Moorhead still. Well, the teachers had to go back to school and get 18 credit hours in their content area and to be able to teach dual credit classes. There was no platform with a professor in there. It was just the teacher teaching that content to our students and providing that service for our students.
So we're talking about teachers that are working under those other colleges needing.
I think it's just 2.
It's just 2.
I think.
These hours.
If I can only think of 2.
The classes, the courses that we're offering through UK, not all the dual credit classes we offer are offered through UK.
Right.
We have a teaching and learning pathway that comes through Campbellsville, and we have some math courses that come through Campbellsville.
Okay.
Campbellsville does not offer the program like UK does, where you can teach under another. They have to. So those 2 teachers are working through Campbellsville, and they've gone back and gotten those courses completed. So they are now certified and eligible certified to teach dual credit through Campbellsville.
So this is not asking for tuition for classes in the future. They're asking us to backtrack and reimburse for the.
Yes,
Well,
for the classes that they've taken.
It was brought up, like I said, in 1920.
2020.
2020, okay.
2019.
Something. Anyways, it was brought up a few years ago.
I got a little confused, because
The 19
if she goes back to 1920, she goes way back to that.
The 1920 school year was
So
brought
they're
up back
asking for
then, and then I think
reimbursement.
COVID happened and
Yeah.
it just went away. And so a teacher has brought that back to our attention, basically.
So they're already in process of teaching these classes. If we applied some of the same thing we have in the past, when we reimbursed money like that, we asked them to remain employed with us for 5 years doing that job. In this case, they've already done a couple of those years, but we would still expect them to teach here for 5 years or pay us back.
We could, yeah, we have a contract that we use for the supervision and things. We could adjust that to make
We've
that
done that with
fit
a couple
this
different positions.
also.
Right, and that's done, I'm just using that for the example of what we've done, to my knowledge, in the past.
Mhm.
And I think that's what the proposal.
Yeah. Questions or discussion?
So we would be reimbursing this University of Kentucky figure here.
Mm-mm. Not
No.
not UK people, our UK teachers that are teaching dual credit do not have to take classes, additional classes in their content area, because they have a professor from UK online with them while they are teaching that class to our students. The only people that had to take additional classes were the ones that went through Campbellsville. EKU required that, and
We don't have anybody through this year.
not
It's
anymore.
just Campbellsville. The two teachers that are asking for the reimbursement have gone through Campbellsville
Okay.
University.
And that figure's.
No, the one that's on here is, I'm looking at the same thing, like UK, Eastern, Western, Northern.
They didn't send us a breakdown of what their costs were. I can ask them what the costs were, but they didn't send a breakdown of that.
So the one we're talking about reimbursing, we don't have a figure for.
I do not, I can have that for you at the next meeting.
I think we need to have that figure. Any other questions or comments? All right, move on. 3C, bus driver, additional hour for cleaning. Mr. Rowe, Mr. Craig.
Where's Mr. Krueger? We'll let you go first, Mr. Krueger.
This is essentially going back to what we had last year. They were at 6 hours last year. We didn't know what we were gonna be in this fall, what kind of situation we're gonna be in this fall. So when the board passed it last year, which would have been prior to me coming in this position, but my understanding, Mr. Lay would have asked for that and it was approved, for that school year. And then, so we just defaulted back to 5 hours. It's what everyone was, and all drivers were informed of that this summer. Obviously now we're in just as bad or worse of a situation than we were, at many points last year. And we had it down as cleaning on the agenda, but there are multiple other things the drivers have to do for COVID tracing, whether it be seating charts or whether it be the daily attendance. So they'd be much more detailed with keeping up with that stuff for when contact tracers call me and ask for those things. So I can provide it so we can, really look out for our kids, plus the cleaning aspect of it.
Questions, comments?
I would like to say I really appreciate the bus drivers that have stepped up and just went ahead and done this, not for sure knowing whether they're gonna get the extra hours pay.
And
Really,
actually, that's pretty much most of them.
Oh.
They ask, and I said at this point, no, in the summer. Of course, they hope to have it again, but there wasn't any grumbling. They went about it and they did it because it's best for their kids. And that's why we're asking for it back.
I really appreciate that. Really appreciate that. And Mr. Rowe, I'd like to know if you have a recommendation.
My recommendation is I think the board should approve this. But they're going above and beyond, and they've done a great job with it. But of course, we're not taking action tonight, but that would be my recommendation.
We do have a driver with us.
I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
Well, I was on the way to Durham's Grocery and the wife's gonna be mad, but anyway, I knew Mr. Krueger would be here, and Gloria has invited me numerous times. But there's more to, the bus than a lot of you guys may not know. The yellow forms that we fill out to do the seating chart, it's a nightmare for me to get them returned. And I think 3 years ago, I asked Mrs. Duncan if the driver could be incorporated in the meet and greet, and she thought it was a wonderful idea. And, you know, you can meet the parents and get all that done then. But the communication to me just seems like it's so far behind. Today I get a handwritten note, and I don't know who sent it out. I didn't recognize the student, and I was trying to figure out where she lived. She didn't have a clue where she lived. And she said, oh, never mind, there's my sister getting on the other bus. So I sent her to the other bus. But I didn't think we did handwritten notes. But I would just like to see us get better at communicating. And, you know, the first couple of days this year with the temperature of 110 degrees on the bus was insane. But anyway, Mr. Prager didn't solicit me to come here. Like I said, I was on the way to Darn's Grocery. I just wanted to stop and see what you guys did.
This is it.
I mean, I've run to parents' homes to get this form filled out, but this year I've got a lot of new ones and I have no idea yet. I don't have any phone numbers or anything like that. But I just think we can do better.
There does need to be a better front end leading into the first day of school, you know, and we realized that day one this year, and I realized that in this role, as many of you I've talked with, I know, I'm going to come up with something that we can do to where day one runs a whole lot better. And I realize day one is just that, it's day one. There's a lot of things to be learned within the building, outside the building, but we can get them home still safely sooner than we did on day one this year. And they can know a lot more about their kids on day one, whether it's on the driver's end of what they do with their staff work days and the way we assign that work of figuring out who's on their routes and having, you know, some form of a seating chart and some form of that list done based on prior year, especially if they're in the same route, or if it's on the school end or they go to open house, whatever, but it'll be a collaboration between everybody. But that is something I definitely see need for improvement for, and I don't think anybody would argue with it.
Well, that gives you the beginning of the plans for next year, huh?
Yes.
So, yeah. Anyone else?
Can some of that still able to be tracked in Infinite Campus, like, you know, because that's probably not going to change too much, you know, with the,
What part of it?
like the bus, they usually could have like the bus.
You can still put bus number in there.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what I'm thinking. And that would be tied to that individual student.
I mean,
And I was thinking if you actually use that part of it in campus, you could probably just print out a report out of IC of the buses and the students and the parent guardians and their phone numbers.
I asked about that, and not picking on anybody because I realize numbers is the issue. That is done at many of the elementaries already, but they're dealing with a lot fewer kids. I mean, I get that. But there is that in there where those, therefore can be. And, you know, if that's something we could provide the, whatever, the time for whoever's responsible for doing that extra time, that would be huge. You know, that if we could house that in there, and if you want to know who's on that bus, bam, there it is. It wouldn't take long to get that IC.
I think there used to be entered out there. There was like a secretary or something at the bus years ago, I think.
The only thing that I had trouble with that when I drove a school bus was when your parents move and don't let the school know that they moved.
Keeping it
And
updated,
it,
all the demographics, that's a challenge.
yes.
I mean, that's not just
Yes.
that's everything.
Yes, and in most times, the bus driver is the first person that knows the student moved. Well, we don't know whether they changed that in Infinite Campus or not.
But for this item, we're going back to what we were doing last year, $6,
Yes.
right?
Exactly.
Okay. 3D, high school band fees, Mr. Rowe.
Yes, it's been a request from the high school, and Mr. Galby wants to respond after I'm done. That's perfectly fine. In the past, we've always charged a $100 fee for marching band. And after looking what other schools charge, that is quite a small fee. Some districts, it can be up to $1,000 for all the equipment. Last year, we didn't charge any fees, so obviously that was not charged. When the high school submitted their fees for this year, they inadvertently left off the $100 band fee. So right now they're asking for the board to consider approval of adding that to their normal fee. I've been assured that if a student can't pay, they're not required to pay that. So when I asked how much more would this generate and compared to not doing it, they said roughly $1,000 to $1,500 annually. So I'll turn it over. Mr. Cobb, you got anything else you want to share?
That's pretty much it.
Is this is primarily marching band?
It is marching band, yes.
And the bottom line is they've paid it in the past. It came off in COVID when we approved the fees from the high school.
We
just
left
was
it off, yeah.
left off.
Pretty much.
Questioners, Ricky?
Okay, with it being this late in the year, I hope y'all can hear me okay without echoes.
We can.
Would we have enough in our general fund to cover those fees just for this year, being that band is obviously already starting?
Yes, we would. We currently give band $3,000 per year. We would have enough to cover that additional amount this year if that's what the board so chooses.
We give them 3
We can currently give them 3.
already, and this is extra besides that.
Yes.
Because that was my next question. How much money did we give them to start, or if we give them any? I agree with Ricky. Of course, we're not voting on it tonight, this late in the year. Of course, again, the parents were expecting it, but incoming wouldn't.
Well, when we have our meeting and it comes up for a vote, we can make a motion as we feel is appropriate. Okay? Any other question or discussion? Okay. Funding assurances, 3E, Mr. Rowe.
It is something that I'm required to bring to the board for approval every year. We've got a program called GMAP that we submit all our information when it comes to financials. And as part of the duty of the superintendent, you have to check off yes, that you're doing everything that's required of you. I've done that part and submitted that part to KDE. The next part is to ask the board when it comes time to approve that, then I have to upload the minutes from the meeting that the board approved that also. And there's an attachment there. It's got many, many pages on it. But ask any questions.
Question or comments about the funding assurances? All right. Revised 05.41 AP.2 drills and disaster report, Mr. Krager.
This is also going back to a form that was previously used. It's more specific as to the exact drill that took place. It's got all your particulars in there of what type of drill it is. You know, any students that had to have special assistance getting out of the building, whether it be a student on a wheelchair, in a wheelchair, on crutches, whatever. And when, I can't remember the date, but Ms. Benson and I looked at it. Last time that policy was updated, it got left out. And what is currently in there is more of the year-long look, the form that gives all the dates and all the drills you do in the year. So this just needs to be added back.
Okay. Questions or comments? Mr. Smith, I think this is one of your deals that you were interested in having the report for the board.
Right. That's the board to ensure things are.
When we get this in the future, if we approve it, it's okay. You feel like if we put it in the consent agenda, that would be a place for it? Or would you want it specifically talked about?
Well, remind me, I thought procedures, we just reviewed those.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
On procedures, I thought boards just review those. We don't approve procedures. I think we
This
just
will go to
approve policy.
KSBA.
We just review it. And
Okay,
that's-
all right. Well,
I think that's.
that answers that question.
In that,
Yeah, this will go to yeah, it's reviewed, and unless you wanted a revision to it, I'll send it to KSBA
Okay.
tomorrow. But were you asking about the?
I was just asking about the information, how it's presented to the board, what we would do with it once we got it, other than look at it. So we have to do something with it beyond.
I think it's
gonna-
just reviewing, making sure that they're doing their monthly fire drills and tornado drills and
I was just gonna,
lockdowns. I think he's gonna do some type of like one-page summary or something.
Oh, are we now talking about the monthly report?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
shifting gears there, I'm
Yeah, we're
sorry.
shifting gears.
Yeah, I've
Yeah, I
already,
was asking where we're going.
Ms. Benson already has that for you all.
Okay.
and I put it in with superintendent staff.
Oh, yes, I think that would be fine.
Yeah. All right, 3G, one-to-one contracts, Ms. Hart.
So I actually put this in here just as a precaution, just in case there's any changes. As of right now, Senate Bill 563 is a go. It is in litigation over, if they will allow SEEK funds to travel with students to private schools. In speaking with my auditor, as of right now, we're not doing one-to-one contracts, but we decided that it might be best case just to have it on here and approved, just in case anything changes. I'll have it approved and I can send those out if anything should change.
Question or comment? Okay. 3H, exceptional child virtual teacher position, Ms. Doddy.
You're right.
At the time,
Oh,
since we are working on a new adventure of virtual instruction for our elementary students, and we have some elementary, some teachers that are starting to be elementary instructors, we need to employ an exceptional child educator to support the learning of our students with IEPs that have made the virtual option and work alongside the two elementary virtual teachers that we already have. And I think I put this on my request, but in case I did not do that, that is something that we can pay for out of our ARP funds, which is our additional piece that we were given as part of the SMO.
Questions or comment?
For the greenhorn up here, the
Yes, sir.
youngest person, could you all say COVID funds? All of these COVID funds, this was my question. This is paid for with COVID funds, and you called it something else?
Yes, when it was given to the exceptional child branch, they chose to give it, of course, yet another acronym, Gloria, and they're
Yes.
calling it ARP for us.
Yes,
And
but
Miss
it's
Smith can
basically
probably
COVID.
tell you what ARP means, but right now it has totally left me.
American Recovery Plan.
There you
There
go.
you go. That's just for me. Just for me.
Absolutely.
Anyone else? All right. Adult lunch prices, Mr. Yates.
Yeah, Kathy couldn't be in there. She's actually still in the office. The state has went up on the state adult prices, to $4.59, the way I understand it. So we now need to charge $4.60 for an adult lunch. Yep, I know, I agree. I think we're required to do that, the way I understand it.
Questions or comments? 3J, the 2021 CATS Technology Activity Report, Ms. Smith.
You guys don't actually have that yet. I haven't finalized it. It's a report that we have to submit annually. It's due by September the 15th. Basically, it's just an accountability to show that we receive technology money and we spend it on technology, and it divides it out into categories. How are we spending that money? So I will have that ready by the meeting next week, so you guys can look over it and approve it. It's not really a super exciting report or anything like that. Just one of those things that has to be done. So I will get that on there.
Question or comment? All right. Working budget, back to Ms. Smith.
All right, so the main reason I don't have that report quite ready is because of this working budget, which is due to KDE by September the 30th. And I just kind of wrapped this up this afternoon. So I don't know if you've had a chance to look at it. I did put some talking points in there, and I'll just kind of run through those. This is the final step of the budget process. So once we approve this at next week's meeting, we're good for this year's budget. But then, of course, come January, we start back again. So it's a year-long process to keep an eye on the budget and keep it under control. As we've said, this year's budget is out of the ordinary. The typical budget for us is around 47 to 50 million. This year's budget is about 65 million because of the COVID money, no matter what you call it.
No matter what you call it.
That's right. So we are going to be saving general fund dollars, as we've discussed, using our ESSER money to cover expenses maybe that we would already be incurring. Our contingency is required to be at 2%. This budget is reflecting a contingency of 13%. which is around $3.3 million. So in a typical year, our contingency might be, you know, $1.5 million, a little bit less, a little bit more. So we will see that number increase again next year just because of the money that we have coming for the next couple of years. As we discussed, the budget includes a 2% raise. We have an increased CERS retirement rate that we'll be paying in that we talked about previously. We've got our seat money projected at around $15 million, which includes full-day kindergarten, and salary and benefits make up about 73% of the general fund budget, which is less than usual due to ESSER picking up some salaries that otherwise general fund would be paying. So you guys are free to flip through that, and if you have any questions or specific questions, you're welcome to reach out to me before the meeting next week. Shoot me an email or give me a phone call and we'll run through it. But I've never had a normal budget since I've worked here, so maybe in a few years I'll see what that looks like. But for right now, this is what we've got.
Any general comments or questions at this point?
I just appreciate her. I just really, really, really appreciate her and the hailstorm she's been handling. Hail balls flying out of every direction. And I appreciate.
Well, it's nice to have additional funding, of course, to use, but it also adds a lot of layers of stress and responsibility to make sure we're doing with it what we need to be doing with it and that we're being accountable. So,
any latest information on, like, we still are working on creating an ADA for this year? Nothing going back to?
There has been some talk that there's a possibility that that could change, and those are in discussion, but as of this very second, we are still, we have ADA that is in full swing at this very moment. So
There was a meeting yesterday by the Joint Commission for Education between the Senate and the House in Frankfurt. And there was talk that there may soon be a special session called as early as possibly next week. And one of the things that superintendents has asked is going back to the 18-19. And we'll get more information as that comes along.
Anyone else? All right. Final site-based decision-making council allocations. Ms. Smith, back to you.
yes, those final allocations are due by September the 15th. So at this time each year, we look at the numbers and evaluate whether there are any changes. Formulas stay the same. We just plug in the student count and see if it results in any differences. Initially, the form that was uploaded, if you happen to see it, said that there weren't any changes. But as everything during COVID is kind of fluid, as we kind of look at the numbers and figure out what does this mean and make some adjustments, there are some changes that I will be recommending. And that would be to approve an additional 0.5 teacher allocation to Houstonville, an additional 0.5 teacher to LCMS, and an additional 0.4 teacher to Crab Orchard based on the September 2nd ADM report. So that would mean that within those schools, the ADM increased enough to provide that extra allocation.
Questions, comments? Okay. Next up, we have some action items. 4A, the MOA, MOU with outside agencies. Ms. Griffin?
You have several there to approve. Most of them are just normal, like we did last year, saying that they are going to have liability insurance and they're going to follow our procedures when they come in, and they'll have a CAN check and a background check and provide releases of information and their driver's license, that sort of information. One of them is from Quest, and it is a more detailed MOU. Quest is willing to provide a mental health therapist to our district that would be here 5 days a week and service our 4 elementary schools for free. We just have to provide the space and a computer, basically, for them to work with. So that is the more extensive one that you have in there. And that person could start as early as September 14th, if approved tonight.
Questions or comments?
Ms. Griffin, could you share the number of students that have seen the mental health specialist at the high school? I know you shared that with me.
The first 2 days of school, they saw 26 kids. And said 20 were very legitimate needs. And they sent me a message about how happy they are to be at the high school. And I want to thank Mr. Gobby for using one of his extra positions this year to hire another mental health person, because there's no way that one person could handle the needs that are at the high school right now. Because it is extensive. And I went to elementary school today and asked their counselor, I said, if we get a mental health person that can start soon, do you have kids? She said, absolutely. The need is great.
If there's no further questions or discussion, I will accept a motion to approve the memorandum of agreements and understanding with Specialized Alternatives for Family and Youth of Kentucky, the Danville Counseling Center, Quest Children and Family Counseling Associates, and New Vista. Bruce makes the motion, second.
I'll second it.
Gloria seconds. Vote. Ricky?
Yes.
Gloria?
Yes.
Etta?
Yes.
Bruce?
Yes.
And I vote yes also. Okay. 4B, request a finding, Mr. Rowe.
Yes, spent a lot of time this past Friday on the phone with the facilities branch of the Kentucky Department of Education. We know that what's the fastest route we can get this welding lab up and running, basically. We were told that our new plan we're working on for our district facility cannot be approved until December of 2021, which would put us way behind, because our goal was to have a welding lab open by January, basically next semester. So they recommended that we reconvene our previous local planning committee and request a finding in our current plan, not the one we're drafting right now. And the first process of doing that is have the board request a finding to make a minor change in the district facility plan per section 503, the finding process. There is other steps we'll have to do. This is the first step to get it going. So I would recommend that we do this. That way we can get our welding lab built and ready by time for our next semester.
Questions or comments?
And that is the plan that was approved by the Kentucky Board of Education on June 2017, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Anything else? There's no further discussion. I would ask for a motion to request a finding to make a minor change in the district facility plan per section 503 finding process.
I make the motion.
Gloria makes a motion, second.
Second.
Etta seconds. Vote. Ricky?
Yes, sir.
Gloria?
Yes.
Etta?
Yes.
Bruce?
Yes.
I vote yes also. 4C, additional contact tracer positions, Mr. Rowe.
Yes, with the Delta variant of COVID and the number of students we're starting to have to quarantine, one person being a contact tracer is not enough for our district. Our local health department has indicated they will not contact trace. It is totally left up to us. And I am recommending that we add 2 additional positions for the remainder of this school year to help with the contact tracing. You know, as this Delta variant works its way throughout the communities, we do expect to see numbers increase, not just here, it's going to be everywhere. And in order for us to do it correctly and provide the safest environment for our kids, we need additional help in those areas. That would be using ESSER funds to fund that.
Question or comment?
My only concern was 2 was not enough.
If we do more, we'll come back and ask for more.
Because, you know, we're having a hard time keeping up with it at the school level. I mean, it's all we do. It's consuming. I mean, when they call and we've got, 8, 10 kids that we've got to, pull out of class, we gotta, isolate them, call parents, gotta get parents to bed, send them home, pull seating charts, gotta get all that stuff, it is massive at the school level. I don't know about the other schools, but the high school, it is all consuming.
It's all consuming. It's all consuming at the district level too. And I'm thankful that the schools have really picked up and done a lot this week, because we could not have got it done here.
What about at the elementary levels?
It's very significant. Houstonville has a significant number of kids quarantined. Crab Orchard has been hit hard this week. Waynesburg's had a couple positive cases, and Stanford a couple, not as many, but none. Houston only Crab Orchard have been significant.
If there's no further discussion, I would ask for a motion to approve the creation of 2 additional contact tracers for the 2021-2022 school year only. Bruce makes a motion, second.
Second.
Etta seconds, vote. Ricky?
Yes, sir.
Gloria?
I vote yes, but I still don't think 2 is enough.
Etta?
Yes.
Bruce? Yeah. I vote yes also. All right, we had some addendum items for discussion. Mr. Rowe, 5A, abolish the instructional technology coordinator position.
Yes, our current instructional technology coordinator, congratulate her, she's able to retire and decided now's the time to retire. Her final day of employment in the district is going to be September the 30th. And what I'm asking the board to do is consider abolishing this position. We'd really like to take this money and create a new position for some areas we know we need help in. And that's actually part of the next item that's going to be on the agenda.
Any questions or discussion about 5A?
We probably just need to get that corrected then. Get
Yeah.
that information.
I already saw it.
Okay.
Thank you.
That was my only question. I kind of, the days
The
were.
month's deal, I understand. All right, 5B, Director of Secondary Schools position, Mr. Rowe.
Yeah, this is what I just mentioned a few minutes ago. We've worked really hard over the last couple of years of putting energy into the elementary schools, bringing them together as a unit. I think we've done a good job with that. But we know we've also need help at the middle and high school areas. We're talking about is creating a person, the position will be called a Director of Secondary Schools position. This person will provide support just for the middle and high school. So they'd be there doing, basically it's like an instructional coordinator, not an instructional coordinator, instructional supervisor you would see in a lot of districts. This is a pretty common position in most districts, but the focus would be just on the middle and high. You know, I can tell you we have 2 principals here, I'm sure they'll be very happy for the support.
I'd like to bring a couple of things. In your description, you kind of had that Director of Secondary answering to, or seemingly in your wording, answering to or answering to Dreamer.
Chief Acting Officer.
I would rather see those positions kind of be equivalent to each other on the same plane.
Okay.
I don't know, and I spoke to Dreamer before the meeting today, and you know, once again, for one person to have your position across all these schools is difficult at best. Their school system's a lot smaller than ours that already have 2 separate positions, a secondary curriculum director and an elementary director. And while I know your primary experience is elementary, I mean, I'm assuming that if this position came in, that's kind of how you would divide up the roles there. But just kind of want to bring that up as a, I don't want to get into the schematics of naming positions. I see them as equal positions, and philosophically, I think that's a better model. Feel free to chime in.
Wouldn't that be more funds?
If that's what the board chooses. Currently, right now, the way I'd envision it would be paid the same as any director position. If you want to put on, but if you want to put on an equal playing field, and you want to talk financially on an equal playing field, then it would be, yes, more funds.
It would be a chief title. I voiced this over the last few years. I'm just getting concerned that our budget's getting up into close to 80% of salary. And there's some of you sitting out there that's lived through that year where we had to cut a bunch of money and people lost jobs. That's my only concern. And I know there's been some decisions made by previous boards that to save money. And I just don't, and I think the trend, and Ms. Hart, can you correct me? The trend is we're not growing in enrollment. And I just don't want something to come up here where we end up having a lot of people to lose jobs at the end, because this district a few years ago had to cut close to $1 million one time. So you remember, a lot of people lost jobs. because that budget, got into 80-some% salary. And that means, the district's only operating on 20-some%. And I know, salaries are important, but also my concern is, the trend of enrollment, we're not growing.
Well, I will say this, I think it's more important to have the position than the schematics of the pay. I'm just saying where I want to, I just want to say, I see those two positions being equal in status. If that adds to the money,
We have to pay the money.
the other part of that is to get a position like that to compete for anybody coming in. It's going to have to pay something. Now, once again, any position you have, so much of it's based on who comes into the position, and that's part of it too. And I would hope that, if the board approves this position, that we work hard to get somebody very competent in that position and not just be so concerned with filling it even this year that maybe it's something we can look at for the following year. But
Years ago, we used to have an elementary supervisor and the secondary supervisor.
So
Kind of like what you said on Mr. Smith here is, I feel the same way. If the board decided to approve this position when we post it, it doesn't mean we're going to hire whoever applies. If there's not a right person, the right fit, we'll continue keeping it posted throughout the year until we can find that right fit. This is going to be a very important position to help us move to the next step.
any other questions?
I think Ricky's trying.
Ricky? Can't hear you.
Get off the phone here.
We can't hear you, Ricky.
Sorry, I forgot to take my mic off. I just want to say I agree with you, Ben and Mr. Rowe. I think it's a valuable asset and benefit to our district as a whole. I don't look at it this one as we're just creating a new job. There's one being abolished and one being created, so I don't see that the extra expense is going to be anything that's a hindrance on our district, especially with Leanne managing our finances. And we would be having a conversation if she didn't think it was something that we could afford long term. So I believe we can continue without this position. I think it's something that we need to move forward.
Anyone else? All right. Moving on, 5C, school psychologist position, Ms. Godby.
Me again, because I'm asked off. We currently have a 1.0 school psychologist position that has been posted for over a calendar year. We cannot fill that position. I would like to ask the board to give us permission to split that into 2.5 positions so that we may hire 2 retired persons that have a certification called Counselor 2A that will allow them to perform most of the duties that a school psychologist can do and help us out so that we can get through the school year. Of course, we had hoped and wished that we would be able to attract and hire a 3rd school psychologist, but that has not happened for us. And we would like to ask permission to break that back into 2.5s. 2.5s, sorry. Not 2.5, but 2.5.
2 half positions.
2 halves.
There you go.
With visuals.
Questions or comments? All right. There being none, I need a motion to adjourn.
I make the motion.
Lori makes a motion, second.
Second.
And a second. Vote, Ricky,
Yes, sir.
Gloria,
Yes.
Etta,
Yes.
Bruce? Yeah. I vote yes also. Thank you all. Appreciate it.